Hello friends, hello guys and girls. Just wanted to share with you for this week something that's been hot off the press for me in the last couple of days, and it's I work with a lot of big beings, big personalities, people that have a big impact on the world, and of course all of this teaching that I'm sharing with you and all of the stuff that I'm sharing, putting out into the world is actually it's always about becoming more aware of the disruptory mind, the mind and all of its elements, all of the thinking and the good and the bad and the right and the wrong, and what happens if this happens, and all the stuff that goes through our mind creates such a disruption to our soul, to our peace, to the present moment, to our creativity, to our care for another person, to the way we come across, the way we interact. It really creates a lot of disruption in our space. And this, of course, is mostly unconscious to us. It's part of our conditioning, our upbringing. Certainly becomes part of what we think is our personality. And in a lot of instances, our personality becomes the highest point in the world. That's, your personality is who you are. Well, it's not. It's not who you are. You're far more than your personality. In fact, if you were to take away all the rules and regulations and decisions you've made unconsciously in your mind along the period of you growing up, you would discover a very different person to who you think you are, and in fact very peaceful, very deeply able to understand other people, very calm, very decisive and powerful, and able to jump into things straight away. So who we are is a lot different to what we think we are. And of course the dominant word in there is think, because we're doing a lot of thinking, and a lot of thinking, we're always trying to fit in with each other and live up to other people's expectations, which is another thought of how you should be. So we slowly but surely imprison ourselves in all these thoughts. The way I should be, the way I need to be loved or understood or acknowledged or get ahead, all these sort of things. So as we build up this personality and these traits as we get a little bit older, we get a few more generally. We're also building up, it's the double-edged sword element. Every time we build up another, oh yes, I'll do it, oh yes, I'll get there, or oh, do you think I'll get there, and all these things. As we build up more, the more mind, the more upset, the more pollution, distortion, dysfunction that we've built up in our mind literally contributes to create another version of ourself that actually creates the problems that we're trying to fix. So we want to love somebody, but we're worried about getting hurt, so we don't let them in too close because we got hurt last time. So our mind or our ego says to us, don't get too close because you got hurt last time. We're not even aware sometimes that we're doing it. But then eventually we break up with that partner, and that partner reveals to us, well, the reason, and we go, oh, we got hurt again. And the partner reveals to us that, well, the reason I left you is because you never let me in. So the very thing we're trying to avoid by jumping into a persona, an ego, a mind, an unconscious pattern gets created again and again and again. So I'm working with these powerful people, and I'll try and make this as short as possible, but I'm working with these powerful people, and I start to come across a couple of people in particular that have a very, very strong, almost cutting energy, very intellectual, very cold, very calculated, very right, very controlling. And on a group thing we're working on, it become very relevant that these personalities, these beings had this trait or this energy that could be quite disruptive to the whole, to people feeling valued and connected and loved and acknowledged. So look, there's a lot I could go into about this and where it comes from, and they both had very strong fathers who were very hard to please and all sorts of stuff. But so our conditioning does form a massive amount of the problem we have now, unless of course we can see it and release it, and then we're free of it. But working with these couple, I found myself reacting, and I found myself it's pretty rare these days that I actually find myself going, oh, I still felt the goodness and the fighting the good fight, so to speak. No fight's good, but looking after people and certainly standing up for the people in the rest of the group. While I facilitated and handled it. Fortunately, I was in the position that it was my job to do that, so I was asked to do that. But in handling it with these two gentlemen, strong personalities, I found myself really having to stand my ground, and it was very unusual to not just be able to pull it apart, open it up, and get to the bottom of it. I had to kind of stop that behaviour in its tracks. And overnight, I had trouble In the middle of the night, I woke up feeling relatively peaceful, but aware that it was incomplete. And then it started to come into me. I had a feeling from when I was younger of being exactly the same. I thought about the energy of these two people, and I felt like controlling, right, very cutting, cold, everything else. And then as I let myself feel it and experience what it felt like to be on the receiving end of that, I suddenly could feel how I'd been on the giving end of that for a large period of my life. I felt as though, oh goodness, that's what I felt when I was 14 or 15, and I took on that. I felt that from other people, hated it so much that I decided I'd play the game differently, and of course became that controlling, calculated person for a period of time, and had that effect on other people. I didn't want to see it in them because I'd had to see another layer in myself of something that I never wanted to admit, that I was that too. So that was pretty freeing just to see that thing. And ultimately what happened was those two people today have both come forward and all of a sudden been incredibly helpful and incredibly happy to actually work with everybody else, and we've busted the cycle. So I'm going to summarize this very fast by saying to you, sometimes allow the possibility when something's not changing in a relationship with someone else, it's because it's reflecting you. Sometimes what you don't, or certainly one of the first things when I read The Way of the Peaceful Warrior and then came across a viewpoint many, many years ago, early 90s, was the viewpoint, you cannot love or hate something in someone else unless you love or hate it in yourself. And I want to share that profound wisdom and remind, it's not new for some people, but remind you, you cannot love or hate something in someone else unless you love or hate it in yourself. So if you're reacting or resisting, it's something that's mirroring you. And it's giving you a wonderful opportunity to view it. Doesn't mean you don't say stop. You need to say stop sometimes. Don't do that. That's having an impact. But when you stand there and face that energy and say stop to it, the second part of the equation, don't forget to see the person, but the second part of the equation is actually to see the energy in yourself. If you don't feel fully free and clear and feel like you have to run around telling everybody about what you've done and I told them off and all that sort of stuff, then you're not clear, you haven't cleared it. If you feel better, above, more superior, it's just a spiritual ego. So my realization was I had a little bit of that. And when I let it go, I felt so much better, and I feel quite humbled to say that after that, me doing that, that these guys have come back and said, no, I'll help you in any way I can. So it's pretty amazing what we'll do for each other when we're willing enough to look at our own crap, to see the reflection of the mirror. So yeah, basically, whenever you have that reaction, ask yourself, allow the possibility there's something deep down in there. The last thing I want to say about it is this. I had a friend who I was working with, and we were working through a particular issue he had with somebody, and that person, I can't see myself in them, there's no way. And it was like, he's an idiot, he's this, he's that, and that's all neither here nor there. And I just said, what is it really that gets you? And he said, he just always thinks he's right. He thinks he's better than me. And in that moment, I asked the question, is there any of that that could be yours? And he went, oh my goodness, my partner always says that to me. Oh my goodness, I'm even doing that with them. So allow the possibility that we are creating the wars that we're fighting. Allow the possibility that what we're fighting in someone else is something that's in ourselves that we don't want to see. It's okay to see it. If you find a dark spot, it's a dark spot. So what? As soon as you look at it, turn the light on, it becomes a light spot. You become a bit wiser and you're more able to help someone else. So that's my little thing that I want to share with you today, and hope it hits the spot. Lots of love. Remember, bring it into now by getting through this stuff, and never underestimate the power of who you are. Cheers.